Alright, guys. I swear, this isn't just gonna turn into the SuperNova versus Chinese players Starcraft 2 casts as a YouTube channel, but we've got one more. It looked like a good game, and sometimes Starcraft 2 replays come across, or are hard to come across, but I'll get more into that later. It's a Terran versus Zerg on the map Blueshift, so spawning up in the top right-hand side of the map. I already said his name. It is Root SuperNova. The past few casts on my channel have involved SuperNova. I always go for sort of what looks to be the best games, and this one looks promising, so we'll see how this one's going to go. But his opponent, spawning down the bottom left-hand side of the map, I already said a Chinese Zerg, but can you guess which one? It is iAsonu, playing for Invictus Gaming, possibly the most successful Chinese player. I mean, he's done pretty well in foreign tournaments in the past, I mean, as far as the Chinese players go. So it should be a good match. He'll be a tough opponent for SuperNova, I think. And, I mean, these guys, they're around the same level on ladder, so it definitely should be a good match. Now, as this game gets started, I will sort of go into why are you casting this being the fourth SuperNova game in a row? Well, partially because, I mean, players are players, but StarCraft is StarCraft, and games are usually going to be good. I mean, it's not like players do the same thing over and over. Every StarCraft 2 game is different. They're sort of like snowflakes. They can be sort of similar, but at the end of the day, the games are all different, the maps are different, and one of the other players is different. And the main reason for this is that it's hard to come across original StarCraft 2 replays. I don't want to go ahead and cast something that's already been cast by 3 different channels. And so I figure, while I've got these replays from SuperNova, it'll be nice to just cast some original games. You guys don't know what's going to happen. You couldn't find out. The only way you're going to find out is either by skipping to the end of the video or by watching the video. Those are your 2 choices. So this is an original game. I don't know what's going to happen. And as you guys can tell, I'm sort of just going on a rant because it is the start of a StarCraft 2 game. So it does take a minute to heat up. Blueshift being the smaller map. So we'll just have to wait and see how this is going to work out. iAsonu moving out. Going to be securing that 3rd base. Now we'll see how he's going to react to this Reaper. I mean, he's been a player for a long time. We'll see if he loses anything. SuperNova may actually be able to get that drone, but very good micro from iAsonu. It's now that game of cat and mouse. He does save that drone, though. It was looking a little bit worrisome there, but so far, good defense. SuperNova just poking and prodding. iAsonu is a very experienced player in the Chinese scene, and he's actually on one of the more prominent Chinese StarCraft 2 teams. SuperNova on a very good team himself, Root. But iAsonu, he's on a team with a lot of the other really good Chinese players. So he's very prestigious in that matter. Now, the 3rd base is up for iAsonu. SuperNova sees it. It's Blueshift, so a smaller map. Now, an armory's already on the way out for SuperNova, so it looks like he will be putting the aggression onto his opponent. Now, he's getting up another gas behind this as well, which is somewhat interesting. I think it could be Hellion Cyclone, if I had to guess, just based on the fact that there's going to be another gas coming out of here. So he'll either throw up another factory, I think, or something else. But the armory does scream Hellbats early on. I mean, it's not like he's going to be rushing +1 or anything. I could look like a fool if he does. But there comes up that extra factory, another reactor on the way. So it could be Mass Hellion Hellbat, or Mass Hellions eventually turning into Hellbats, or he could throw some Cyclones in here. We'll just have to wait and see. The extra gas makes me think there will be some Cyclones at some point. But interestingly enough, this game, iAsonu hasn't poked in with his Overlord. Blueshift, I mean, some maps are very nice for Zergs in order to hide their Overlords, but this one, there's not as many places close to the Terran main base, so iAsonu would have to sack the Overlord, and he's not doing that now. Well, as I say that, all right, making me look like a fool, but he didn't do it before. He's now just going in to see what's going on. This Marine will do his job to shoo this away. I mean, we'll see. Now, SuperNova lifting this off. +1 is on the way with this armory, as he did have all that gas. So we'll see his Cyclones now on the way. So he's going to have these very strong Cyclones. Cyclones will actually be getting nerfed. So this could be some of the, or could be getting nerfed. So this could be one of the last plays we see versus this. I'm sort of making my case for the modern Cyclone right now. If you guys are up to date on the current balance patch notes, the Cyclone will be getting nerfed. And I am a Terran main. I don't do Cyclone all-ins or anything like that, but versus Zerg, when the Cyclone does have that one less base armor, Zerglings will be a lot better versus Cyclones. So we'll just have to wait and see. But iAsonu did get in here. He got in with his Overload. He saw the one factory making units, but we'll see if he underestimates the severity of this attack. And I mean, he's making a Baneling nest, but Baneling's very good versus Hellbats, not the best versus Cyclones, which is what SuperNova is making right now, and exclusively Cyclones is what SuperNova is making right now. He comes in, he pokes with this Ling, sees the Hellions that they haven't moved out yet, but does he expect there to be all these Cyclones behind it? SuperNova is now moving north, sort of avoiding the main pathing, and it looks like he's going to be making a beeline to the third base. iAsonu does smell out potential aggression. He's got all these Queens, but Queens are good versus Hellbats and sort of these lighter attacks, but this is SuperNova going in for a very heavy attack. Creep being cleaned up now, gonna buy iAsonu a fraction of a minute here, or just a second, a fraction of time. But Cyclone's now right-clicking on the space. They have that +1, so it is going down fast. Now Hellbat's coming in to buffer. Banelings are in, but it looks like this base will be going down regardless unless some Transfuse is dumped. All these Cyclones are now fighting this, but there is Transfuse, so SuperNova may not get the damage he wants here. Queens are being focused down, but iAsonu, good Transfuse, and now Ling's surrounding these Cyclones. There's not much support for them. All the Hellions went down, so I think SuperNova is being routed this game. Now, there is a third base on the way for SuperNova, but we'll see. I mean, he's fighting these Queens. He's trading with a few of them, but there's now a lot of Zerglings out, so these Cyclones will all go down. Some more are popping out, but they are just going to get surrounded by these Lings. iAsonu just using these Zerglings here. Good Banelings, good Queens, very good defense from iAsonu. I mean, he did lose a fair bit of Queens, but he made all those extra Queens to hold this. He kept his third base alive narrowly. It looks like SuperNova may actually want this. He may just go in and right-click with it, but I mean, he wants this third base, but I don't think he'll be able to get it. He's still making Cyclones, he's still making Hellions, so he could be thinking about going in for a round 2. Sometimes Starcraft players, they defend the first wave and then they say, oh, thank goodness I defended this, I can now go into my macro, start a lair, things like that. But iAsonu isn't quite aware of this. I mean, more factories are on the way for SuperNova. We'll just have to see what style he is going to play. I mean, sometimes we do see people play mech, and they do just go for Hellion, basically Cyclone for days with heavy upgrades, and that's what SuperNova is getting right now. He's already got the +1. He's getting up another armory. Now, SuperNova, I mean, he did commit quite heavily to this attack. Lings are actually going to get found by these Hellions. We'll get chased down a little bit. But an infestation pit on the way. However, if we look at this, I mean, iAsonu, he's teching up. I mean, he's getting 1-1. I believe he may have a Hydralisk Den already. He doesn't have the Hydralisk Den yet. It's just starting now. But SuperNova could go in for an attack. And I mean, iAsonu, he's doing that sort of thing in which StarCraft 2 players do, which is basically just breathing. Just taking a deep breath, and that could leave him vulnerable as he thinks he's safe, but he could not be, so we'll see. SuperNova is securing his third base, which is important, but whether he'll move out for a big attack is the question. If he does, he will have 1-1 versus basically just +1. Now, we are seeing Swarm Host on the way for iAsonu, which is an interesting choice. Hellions continuously out on the map for SuperNova, very good, keeping the Zerg player back a little bit. Now, iAsonu is doing a good job spreading the creep, though it's already at the halfway point on this, in the center of the map. Blueshift is a very small map, though, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, a lot of Hellions are out for SuperNova, and this is a lot of Hellions. Now, Swarm Host versus Hellions, I'm going to be honest, I don't know the exact map. Hellions versus Hydras, not the best, so we'll just have to wait and see. iAsonu is making a few, but SuperNova is now going into Thors and tanks and stuff, so we'll just have to see. Is he going to defend this? He hasn't identified the Swarm Host just yet. Now, if iAsonu can attack with the Swarm Host while defending on another front, he will be in a very good situation. He's now got these little death muffins about to pop here. I mean, one wave can deal a lot of damage. Now, Cyclones, they will be able to trade, but SuperNova identifies this. The Hellions are coming back, though, which is important. Cyclone's actually focusing down this Overseer, but we will be seeing a tank or two go down. Maybe two, just barely defends the other one, pardon me. So, sort of good defense for SuperNova. He's made the choice to keep making Hellions, which is really going to help him versus these Swarm Hosts, but the next sort of stage is going to be this mass Hydra. Zergs love their Hydras. They're a very good unit. Now, we'll see. Is SuperNova going to be able to defend from it? He's got a few tanks out, which you definitely need to defend from Hydras. But iAsonu, it looks like he's getting ready to go for it. He's going to work on these rocks. SuperNova does see this. He knows there's a lot of Hydras out, so tanks are being produced, and SuperNova does have very good upgrades this game. He's heading into 2-2. iAsonu is only really going to have the attack upgrades for his units, no Carapace or anything. Carapace doesn't make the biggest deal versus MECH, but it's still, I mean, it's always good to be on par with upgrades now. SuperNova is going to defend. I mean, we'll see. He's got these Medivacs. He may try and drop Hellbats on this army. It's always sort of risky dropping Hellbats on Hydras because they can focus down the Medivacs, but if iAsonu does attack in, that's always an option for SuperNova. SuperNova is on 3 bases, but iAsonu is on 4. The economies, they're both pulling in a lot of money, but we'll see if they take it to the next stage of macro. SuperNova is trying to secure a 4th base, or whether one of these guys really commits to the attack. SuperNova really getting pulled out of position by these Locusts. Now, he does lose a gas, so taking a hit to his income, gas is hard to maintain, or just have enough gas on 3 bases as a Terran. That's why SuperNova wants this 4th base so desperately. Alright, so I mean, this is a lot of Zerg, but is it enough to break a strong Terran mech army? iAsonu is building up a bank back at home. I'd like to see another hatchery or 2 thrown up. I mean, it really can't hurt when you've got a 3k bank. There's one hatchery going up, but throw up another 1 or 2. This is something I love to see Zerg players do. Get up more hatcheries. Go on, do it, iAsonu. I mean, it may get picked off, but if it doesn't, that base will quickly pay itself off. So I am a big advocate for when a Zerg has a bank like this, throw up another base, particularly versus mech. Hellions aren't the best at killing bases, so iAsonu, though, I mean, he is doing a lot of things at once, getting up Spires, getting up an Ultra Cavern, and I say Spires plural. He's really getting ready to transition into air if he needs it. Now, SuperNova's making Vikings. Eventually, as a mech, you do need some form of anti-air. These Thors, though, they also look pretty cool. I got a comment on the unit skins at least once a game. iAsonu doesn't have the unit skins, so maybe his units won't be as good. Now, SuperNova's actually moved out. This is pretty ballsy because there's a lot of Banelings and his Hellbats are clumped up. This is a sudden fight. iAsonu gets some nice connections with his Banelings, eats through a lot of buffer. How many Hellbats died? Like, I mean, there must have been like 10 that died there for a handful of Banelings. Now, iAsonu is out of Banelings. He just has these Swarm Host Hydras, but he's going to be having a lot more units come out right now. And he can buy time with these Hydras. Just the nature of the way Mech has to push up is that he's got to do it slowly because the Hydras have more range than these units under siege. So SuperNova wants to push, but we'll see if he's able to get anything done. iAsonu starting a base to the north. He's getting a lot of tech, so SuperNova, I mean, it's not like he's going for a super late game tech-heavy army. He does want to get something done now. We'll just have to wait and see. iAsonu is planning a nasty surround, though, right now. Locust coming in, Hydra's coming in. Hellions buffering. I mean, the tanks are getting some good shots off. The Hydra's standing strong. They're going to pick off a fair few of them. The Queen's also adding a lot of health to this army. It looks to be a fairly even trade, though. SuperNova got a few reinforcements coming in, and iAsonu fails to break this, but look at this. All the Hellions are dead. You know what iAsonu says? Time for 98 Zerglings. He couldn't have made the extra 2, so it would be 100, but 98 is still a pretty good number right now. So SuperNova's trying to push in. He's got a Hellbat or 2, and I mean, Hellbats can kill a lot of Zerglings, but not so much this many Banelings, so SuperNova is going to retreat right now. I'd like to see SuperNova getting up maybe like starting another CC, something along those lines. He's getting up another factory or 2, so really sticking to this ground play. But we'll see what he's able to get done. iAsonu not going into Broodlords or anything just yet. He does have a Greater Spire, so that is an option. However, he's not ready to contest the air army. His bank has been eaten through a fair bit as these guys have been trading. Now, SuperNova is down on supply a bit because he didn't have as big of a bank, but he needs to be careful now. I mean, this is a lot of Lings. There's Hellbats and stuff, but once again, SuperNova out on the map. Hellbat's very good versus Banelings, or very good versus Lings, but not versus Banelings. SuperNova forced to type back. I'd like to see him pick some of these units up the Medivacs if he has to. I mean, he can save some of them, but Banelings just connecting with everything. iAsonu says, you know what? Banelings might not be the best, but they're still pretty damn good as he gets connections on SuperNova's clumped up army. Kills off a good number of SCVs. Now, that planetary does survive, though, which is pretty important for SuperNova, but his army is shrinking. He's going to have to repair this planetary once again, and this is where it can get scary for the Terran once the Zerg starts snowballing. Now, Broodlord's going to be on the way. SuperNova's got a good Viking count, though. hasn't started his ship upgrades just yet, as he has been committing to the very high ground army. So we'll see if he eventually gets that to help his Vikings out or not. But this game, constant action. Now, just have to wait and see. SuperNova getting up more CCs, but it's hard to expand when creeps on your door. And also taking that 5th really is a big step. So we'll just have to wait and see. SuperNova is moving out. He's pretty thinly spread, though. Swarm Post moving in. iAsonu getting some value off these. There's a lot of tanks at this base, but if these locusts get on top of them, this could be 3 dead tanks right now. The planetary will help out. iAsonu not microing those locusts perfectly. The first few do go down, so it looks like it will just be the 1 tank that dies, but still a nice pickoff. Tanks and Hellbats in place, but it was just a tank for now, so SuperNova going to have to defend this position. Transferring more Hellbats. iAsonu trying to get any damage done that he can. Spines on the way for iAsonu at all of these bases. This is what I love to see for a Zerg player. I wouldn't even mind. I mean, he's got a good bank, or if he had done it before, throw up a few extra bases. I mean, yeah, they can get picked off, but throwing up spines like this at a base, it takes a lot of micro to harass around spine crawlers. So iAsonu getting up these bases, getting up some static defense at them is very, very smart for him. Gonna give him a lot more longevity in this game, securing these bases. Now, he's also taken the base to the bottom right, which I love to see. This could become a game of efficiency. I mean, not as much as other ones, I don't think, as these guys have been trading non-stop. They're relatively equal in units lost, but if iAsonu does mine off on this base in the bottom right at some point, and does take SuperNova's share resources in the long run, it could become relevant, but we'll just have to wait and see. SuperNova is getting up on supply, though, once again. I mean, he's survived. iAsonu couldn't quite kill him. Rest in peace, that Viking. But SuperNova is getting quite secured right now. I mean, MECH eventually does get really dug in, and it chooses to do so. SuperNova, he is on the defensive for now. Lots of Vikings out. I'm not sure if he's identified all these Broodlords and Vipers or not. It can be very tough to take this on. SuperNova not got Ghost, but he's making 4 Thors at a time. Now, iAsonu does have +3 melee, so that will help out the Broodlings, but he's also getting the Flyer attack, which will greatly help. Broodlords are actually surprisingly bad versus Thors without attack upgrades. Thors, in the right engagement, can take on Broodlords. Now, both players are maxed out. They're going to be building banks, and they're going to be doing so very quickly, as they both have booming economies for now. SuperNova, I'm not sure if he scouted this base in the bottom right. He did. So now he knows iAsonu has both these bases. It might be worth it to see a Liberator going out for harassing for SuperNova. This is generally when the Zerg has spines and stuff up. It's like, alright, Liberators can work around those. Now, I'll have to wait and see, though. It could come down to one big fight. iAsonu, lots of spores, lots of spines going up. I love to see this from a Zerg player. He's also still got these few swarm hosts in the game. Now, SuperNova's poking out. Small army just cleaning up creep. He wants this extra base. Few tanks getting sieged up at this base. I love to see this style of harass as well. I mean, tanks can outrange this. Now, if SuperNova is preparing to tech into other things as well, such as more anti-air, throwing away the tanks isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, 3 tanks is pretty expensive, but not a terrible. 1 Locust survived that attack, is now working on this command center. Now, SuperNova does want the space, but Broodlords and Corruptors are coming in. SuperNova's getting out a lot of Thors. Now, Thors in clumped are good versus Broodlords in some situations. In other situations, they can just clump up and be completely useless. SuperNova's now starting his ship weapons, which is important for his Vikings. I'd like to see his Vikings get repaired as well. As winning the air fight, I mean, a little bit of health can make a lot of difference. And it is an important fight to win. Now, iAsonu only has 9 Corruptors. It's always a balancing act in order to be able to deal with the Terran ground army with enough Broodlords. Hydras and Banelings do greatly help with that, though, as they really do help clear the ground army. The ground army, if it fights an air army, Thors can actually do surprisingly well, but Thors fighting Hydras and Broodlords, not so much, as it can be a mess with how they focus. It can be a mess with just how they get sort of caught off. Now, SuperNova does have tanks, though, so if he does take a good fight, I mean, he can still take a good fight. iAsonu once again sending in this Locust wave. Gonna be able to pick off a missile turret, maybe get the sensor tower too. They will get that nicely done. Now SuperNova is poking in. I'm quite a fan of this decision, as if you poke in, you get to make the battle on your terms. Now his Vikings are all out on the map. Broodlords are coming in. I mean, he should know that this army is on its way. Now, he's unsieging his tanks, so the Broodlords are coming on in. He doesn't want to get caught out. Now, this could be a good fight for SuperNova if he takes a good position. Vikings are now forced to split off. They're fighting the Corruptors, but a Parasitic Bomb dealing a lot of damage to some of them. Tanks not sieged up. Thor's fighting the Broodlords. Vikings are actually going to decide to focus down some of the Broodlords. Thors are dealing a lot of damage out, but the tanks aren't sieged. I feel as if they were sieged and target fired. It would be very important. SuperNova, though, is up on supply. I mean, there's 5 Broodlords, a good number of army on the ground, but SuperNova may be pushed off this base. I mean, he's up on supply, partially just because he's making a ton back at home, but a lot of it is tied up in production, so he will be pushed back. Now, iAsonu, he's starting 12 more Corruptors normally, and making 9 more Broodlords, so this will be tough for SuperNova. We'll see if he holds on, but it does take time for Terran's production to rally. Now, we'll see. I mean, Zerg sometimes can overcommit to Broodlords, but iAsonu making a lot more Corruptors is something I like to see. I think he even canceled some of those Broodlords. He knows that he needs to be able to beat out any Vikings of SuperNova. More Vipers on the way for iAsonu. Now, if there's no Vipers in the mix, it will make it feasible for the Vikings to fight these Corruptors. Now, SuperNova does need to be careful. Lots of Thors, lots of Vikings, but Hydras, I mean, Thors and Vikings are not good versus Hydras. SuperNova's got to repair this planetary fortress. He's going to do so, which is very nice. Can deal some damage to these Hydras, which is actually pretty important, and he can repair this for a long time. He wants to secure this base to the bottom right, but he's still being forced off it, so SuperNova's economy isn't the best, but this could be the fight that he wants now. Like I said, iAsonu canceled some of those Broodlords, so he may have enough Thors to push off this. I'd like to see some SCVs come to help repair this, but SuperNova does hold on to his base, which is very important right now. Hasn't secured this one to the south, though. iAsonu's not mining off it, though. These guys are so focused on this fight. SuperNova will eventually want to re-secure this base. He almost had it before, but iAsonu pushed him off it. As SuperNova maxes out, though, once again, it comes to that situation in which it's, if the Terran takes a good fight, the Terran can sort of hold on. SuperNova needs to resaturate all these gases as well. But minerals are going to become a worry for him. I mean, he's really only got 2 bases with mineral patches left, so he really does need this next base. He's even making a Raven, I think partially just because he's got such a higher gas income. He's pulling some SCVs, wants to get mining on this base, doesn't have any tanks though, and I mean, Mass Hydra Broodlord is pretty good versus Thors. There's no tanks in here, so we'll see. I mean, anti-armor missiles could be huge, and SuperNova is going to opt for some of those, going to get them off. The Thors are highly upgraded. iAsonu's army is still lacking that Carapace, so this fight is going to be absolutely massive for SuperNova. We'll just have to see if it's going to be enough. I mean, the Thors are tank and Thors are so strong. SCVs should be repairing the Thors. I mean, the numbers are dropping so low for both sides. SuperNova may just have enough Thors focusing down the Broodlords. It's going to be close. This other Thor needs to focus down these Broodlords, and SuperNova may just have held, but is he going to have the bank to remax? Or actually, no, the Locust Wave, those Swarm Hosts that have been around this whole time may just have won out here. I think iAsonu may have managed to do it. SuperNova, without another base, he probably won't be able to remax compared to what iAsonu will. He's making some Hellions, maybe desperate for some harassment. He made siege tanks to deal with the Hydras, but now he's going to have nothing to deal with any potential more Broodlords. He's making Vikings as well, but SuperNova desperately needs another base. I mean, he can drop mules to sort of be on borrowed time to have a higher income, but eventually it does reach a point in which you do run out of your few mineral patches to be able to CC drifting forward. You can't have that happen. Looks like SuperNova will lose that CC, which is pretty important. That could have been a planetary. So pretty bad misclick there. SuperNova going for some harassment at each of these bases. I mean, Hellions picking off some workers. Now, iAsonu doesn't have a huge bank, and I mean, he isn't maxed out either. So good harassment for SuperNova. If he kills this base off, and iAsonu just doesn't rebuild it, this would actually be very nice for SuperNova, even if he can just land and get around the mules. He's now got to hold off these Swarm Hosts, but SuperNova, he really is on borrowed time. He's really mining out all these bases. His income's eventually going to drop to 0. So he gets this base down, so he may be able to float over his CC at some point. He wants to fight this base. I think he really needs to keep iAsonu's attention, and then he can sneak this base in the bottom right. But he does need to keep iAsonu's attention. He's building missile turrets, but we'll see. He really does need to harass. These Hellbats are moving down to the bottom left. There is spines there, though. Now, SuperNova, yeah, this is good for SuperNova. Constantly harassing, and he's preparing to land the CC. Just one round of mules could make or break this game for SuperNova. It could be tough, though. We'll see. Is there going to be a fight or anything? Now, SuperNova gets some more Hellbats down at this base, and I mean, if he keeps buying time from iAsonu, it will be huge. This creep takes so long to dissipate, and he's just waiting. He wants this. He needs this, but his SCVs may have been seen by this creep tumor, which would actually be very unfortunate. You land the base, SuperNova. Do it. Just around the mules. Go, go, go. This is what we're hoping for. iAsonu, though, he's keeping his bases up. Now, another Hellion. SuperNova tried to draw the attention, but I feel as if the Zerg may know. But no. So far, SuperNova is staying alive, and there should be mules on all those patches. There is. Look at his income. It's going back up. So, SuperNova just keeping this base for a second. There should always be mules on this base, and he's actually doing a fantastic job with this harassment. iAsonu, I mean, like I said, his bank isn't fantastic. His economy isn't too great. Now, Swarmho is going to be picking off this base, but iAsonu overlooking this base is actually huge for SuperNova, as it's going to give SuperNova a bit more time. He's going to have to be less urgent about securing this base. Now, iAsonu, maybe he should sniff something out, saying you shouldn't be surviving on this many bases this long, but this has given SuperNova a new win, definitely. I mean, he's now making a lot more units than he was before, but this game still could come down to one big fight. SuperNova is down on supply, and I mean, the Zerg's army is still very, very scary. But SuperNova, he's got this base now, more mules raining down. This is what we want to see. I mean, he's going to mine this out relatively quick, but here comes in the Zerg drones. They're going to identify this base, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. SuperNova wants this base, and this game could come down to one big fight. There's Vipers, though. They're getting energy. This is looking like a very scary Zerg army. SuperNova's moving out. He's got tanks this time. Not as many Thors, though. And it will come down to his anti-armor missiles, or if he can disable the Vikings or the Vipers with his Ravens. Because, I mean, there's not too many Corruptors, so the Vikings could deal with the Broodlords. If iAsonu just goes in on this now, SuperNova may be able to take a fight. Like I said, this game could come down to one big fight, but SuperNova is down 50 army supply. He needs to kite back. He's not paying attention right now. It's such a critical time. Vipers want to get off that. But anti-armor missiles going down on this right now. SuperNova's army's clumping up, but tanks now working away on some of the Hydras. The Locusts are now coming in. Hellbats transforming, being such a critical buffer right now. Vikings kiting back. Is it going to be enough? Fantastic parasitic bombs go down for iAsonu. I mean, the Vikings are going to be enough to deal with the Corruptors, but will they be enough to deal with the Broodlords in time? SuperNova may just not have enough. It looks like iAsonu may have broken his opponent. The base in the bottom right is dead. And with that, SuperNova is too. GG, iAsonu. I mean, he might have let if SuperNova had another minute with that base, he might have gotten away with it. And that last fight was closer, sort of, than it looked. I mean, all the Corruptors went down, so maybe if SuperNova had better positioning. Either way, though, very well played by iAsonu, the Chinese Zerg. I mean, he kept his base up. His macro didn't slip too much. He was on point with his unit composition as well. I mean, it's easy to overmake units, but we saw him. He canceled the Broodlords. He realized, even though, I mean, Broodlords are the highest tier units, sort of, iAsonu kept making these Hydralisks. He even had an Ultralisk Cavern, too, but he never used that. So, very well played by iAsonu. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. Feel free to subscribe. Getting close to that 900 subscriber mark, so leaving a subscription would be absolutely great. Otherwise, I shall see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.